welcome to Men and Feminism. My name is Nick Richardson, and I will be discussing with you a brief history of men's relationship with the feminist movement during the 20th century. We are going to highlight how men have helped advocate for women's rights over the last 100 years, and what men are doing today to help spread the message of gender equality. We ask that you take a critical look at your own views as you learn about pro-feminist men. Please enjoy. We hear the word feminism used all the time, whether it is in the media or the internet or thrown into a conversation. But do you know what the word actually means? Feminism is defined as the advocacy of women's rights on the grounds of political, social, and economic equality to men. It is widely accepted that there are three separate movements within the American feminist movement. The first wave started in 1848 with the Seneca Falls Convention. This wave focused primarily on gaining the right for women to vote and general suffrage for all. They obtained this goal in 1920 with the ratification of the 19th Amendment. The second wave of feminism started in the early 1960s. During this time, Betty Friedan wrote The Feminine Mystique. Women during this time primarily focused on gaining equality in the workforce with the Equal Pay Act of 1963, and reproductive rights, such as gaining the right for married couples to use birth control and legalizing abortion. The major failure of the second wave movement was the Equal Rights Amendment, which, had it been ratified, made gender discrimination illegal in its entirety. A third wave started up in the 1990s, and it is arguably the least political of these three movements. This movement focused on reclaiming the female identity and redefining perception of women in traditional gender roles, society, and sexuality. We are now going to take a closer look into how men supported these movements. Although not talked about much, there were in fact many men in support of women gaining the right to vote at the start of the 20th century. In the 1910s, men created the Men's League for Women's Suffrage. After just 2 years, the organization had more than 20,000 members. When suffrage started to gain traction, many state legislators submitted suffrage laws to their states, and millions of men voted to approve these laws. President Wilson agreed in 1918 to help pass a federal amendment to give women the right to vote, which would become the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Congressmen in support of the amendment made great efforts to be sure that their vote would be counted. Some left their dying family members or left their sick beds to vote to ensure the amendment's ratification. One legislator in Tennessee even begrudgingly promised his mother that he would ratify it if his vote was needed. It turned out one vote was needed to ratify it, and he kept his word and voted. By 1975, over 60% of men in America were in support of ending gender discrimination by ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment. Every president since Harry Truman was in support of it, and both the Democrats and Republicans were in agreement that gender discrimination should end. Unfortunately, due to waning interest in the subject and a 10-year deadline, the amendment failed to be ratified. But it was not without its own support group created by men. MAN for ERA was a popular and well-regarded group in the mid-1970s and early 1980s that worked hard to get the amendment ratified and get men engaged in the cause. The organization's acronym stands for Men Allied Nationally for the Equal Rights Amendment. Their motto appealed to arguments of morality, feasibility, and ego in order to attract its members. They said men should care about the ERA because they had a stake in the creation of a gender-just society, a place in the fight, there was a chance to succeed, and they would receive strokes or praise for their efforts to make this a sex-fair society. The motto was thus shortened to stake, place, chance, and strokes. They worked to combat everyday sexism, rape, gay rights, and racism. Once the amendment failed to be ratified in 1982, the group disbanded. Today, the feminist movement has largely shifted to the image of women in society, violence against women, sexual assault, and equal pay for women. More and more men today are becoming advocates for these various moments. Famous men like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ryan Gosling, Daniel Radcliffe, President Obama, Daniel Craig, and many men like them have spoken out on pay equality, domestic violence, and rape. Daniel Craig starred in a short video campaign entitled Equals with Dame Judi Dench about political equality, educational equality, and equality in the workplace. Here's a clip.
Women are responsible for 2/3 of the work done worldwide, yet earn only 10% of the total income and own 1% of the property. It's not just about money and power. Every year, 70 million girls are deprived of even a basic education, and a staggering 60 million are sexually assaulted on their way to school. We're afraid to walk the streets at night, yet some of us are even more afraid to return to our own homes. At least 1 in 4 are victims of domestic violence. And every week, 2 women in the UK are killed by a current or former partner. So, are we equals? Until the answer is yes, we must never stop asking.
President Obama discussed in 2012 the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Restoration Act and said, "Too often, women can't access the information they need to fight the pay discrimination. Women can't wait for equal pay, and I won't stop fighting until we address this inequality." There are many campaigns men are getting involved in today that promote the end of domestic violence and rape of women. 2 such campaigns are the No More campaign and the Where Do You Stand campaign. Mariska Hargitay from the popular series Law & Order SVU started the No More campaign as an anti-domestic violence campaign. Men and women alike joined to say no more to the violence against women and men at home. The Where Do You Stand campaign is aimed at college-age men to end rape on college campuses and encourages them to be allies to women and active bystanders when they see somebody in trouble. For too long, women have been oppressed and mistreated by society. They have not afforded the same rights that we as men take for granted every day. Think of the women in your life, mothers, sisters, daughters, friends, significant others, and ask yourself if you want them to live in a world where date rape is something to fear for. Equal pay is a bonus and not an inherent right, and women have to pay extra for insurance that would cover medical procedures in the event of sexual assault. Thank you for joining us today, and please enjoy the show.